Alright, family. It's your boy 804 here, bringing you some more MTGA content. So today we are actually going to be continuing with the Boros Knights deck from yesterday. Reason for that is, A, I was having a lot of fun piloting this deck, and B, I actually did not turn my mic on for the deck tech, so I wanted to revisit here and quickly go over some of the decisions that I had made in building this deck. So for those of you that did not see the video yesterday, this is a low curve aggressive deck using plenty of creatures at the very early parts of the game. We actually have 14 1-drops, 12 2-drops, so we're really focused on getting onto the board early. In terms of composition, we've got a few night payoffs here at the 2-drops that are just really powerful. For one thing, we have a 2-mana Lord here and an Inspiring Veteran. We also have Worthy Knight that creates 1/1s every time we cast a Knight spell. And then the other creature that we have at the 2-drop slot here is a Danta Vanguard. Now, this is not actually a Knight, but it is just so powerful against board sweepers, basically anything outside of Cry of the Carnarium, that it's worth having in just about any low-to-the-ground white aggressive deck. So it doesn't actually have Knight synergies, but it's so powerful that I think it's definitely worth including in any of these aggressive strategies. We also have 4 copies of Venerated Loxodon. Again, this is not a Knight, but there are plenty of games where this just comes down as 9 power onto the board for free. I will say that most of the mono white strategies that we're running 4 copies of the Loxodon, they do have more 1-drops than we're running. They normally run about 20 1-drops, normally at the very least 16. We're only running 14. So far, it hasn't been a huge issue. Basically, I didn't want to run 4 copies of the Weaselback Redcap. It is a Knight, but the power level of this card tends to be significantly lower than things that we have on the 3-drop slot, like History of Benalia and Gideon Blackblade. Basically, I didn't want to cut anything else to include more 1-drops. That might be incorrect, but so far it hasn't felt too punishing. That being said, in the 3-drop slot, we do have Unbreakable Formation. This helps a lot against things like Deafening Clarion for more controlling style decks, as well as it can help us break through board stalls against bigger green decks. Gideon Blackblade, a little bit similar in the sense that it gives us some leverage against sweepers, as well as being able to give our creatures either lifelink in race situations or indestructible to allow them to swing in. Just a very strong card. And then we do have 4 copies of History of Benalia, which is just one of the strongest Knights payoffs. A couple things that I did not choose to include. We have Acclaimed Contender, which is a really strong Knight, but what I often found is, for the most part, we really don't want to be crowding up the 3-drop slot very much. We really want to stay lower on the curve, and I like History of Benalia better, honestly. The Anthem pump that you get at the end of it really tends to push our board states over the top. And often with Acclaimed Contender, you're going to be picking up like a Dauntless Bodyguard, or maybe even if it's a Worthy Knight. And in my opinion, getting History of Benalia down is just one of the most powerful things you can do with the deck. So I chose not to include Acclaimed Contender, but I could very easily see multiple copies of this going in a deck, especially because it does allow you to dig a little bit deeper for cards like Embercleave. We do have 2 copies of Embercleave. I chose Embercleave over Circle of Loyalty because this card is just phenomenal in aggressive strategies. It helps you get through bad blocking situations. It often results in complete blowouts. And one kind of awesome synergy that I really like with it is giving something lifelink with Gideon Blackblade, swinging in, flashing Embercleave. You're just gaining a bunch of life. There's a good chance you're blowing out a blocker, and it's really strong synergy. So yesterday we ended up going 3-0 with this deck. Some of the games were a little bit more interactive than others, but I really enjoyed it. In terms of the land situation, we're playing Boros, so that there really isn't a whole lot of creativity. I've got 2 copies of Castle Ardenvale, 5 plains, Castle Embrith. So far, neither one of these lands has really proven to be too powerful. We don't normally have... basically, if we have 4 mana and we're creating 1/1s, there's a good chance we've flooded and we're pretty far behind. But I do think it's powerful enough that we should include it in the deck. Castle Embrith, again, a lot of times with such an aggressive strategy, we just don't have the 3 mana. But there are going to be situations where we are flooding out a little bit, and this could become very relevant. So those are kind of the highlights for the lands. We've got 3 copies of Tournament Grounds. I don't think that we necessarily need all 4, given that we have things like History of Benalia, which don't actually get the white mana from Tournament Grounds. Venerated Loxodon, Adoptive Vanguard. But yeah, in regards to the sideboard, we've got a very, very simple, basically 2 of a lot of different cards. We've got answers for enchantments, artifacts. We've got a little bit of graveyard hate. Lava Coil for some pesky threats like Rekindling Phoenix that are very difficult to get rid of permanently. We've got Fry for counter matchups, Teferis, things like that. Sorcerer's Spyglass is also pretty good against control decks, specifically ones that are utilizing Planeswalkers. Gideon Blackblade is another good way to leverage against sweepers. It's a really powerful and versatile card that I've really come to enjoy. Unbreakable Formation, again, really strong against sweepers. And then 2 copies of Conclave Tribunal. This is mostly for big creatures that we just are really struggling to get rid of. So, for example, something like the 3 mana dinosaur, the 7/6 in black. Rotting Regisaur, sorry. It's very difficult for us to swing through a Rotting Regisaur. So something like Conclave Tribunal just gets the big guys out of the way so that we can continue to get in. So with that being said, we are going to go ahead and queue up and see how we do. Haven't been playing too much historic ranked yet, but basically just been tired of playing against Simic Flash and the Junfu decks in Standard, and there are a lot of really fun strategies and kind of pet cards that rotated out in the last format that I am excited to get back into. So let's see what we've got here. We have a game against Alvin. We are on the draw, which is a little bit unfortunate. And this looks like a great hand. Vicious Rumors. Interesting. So we're against a discard style deck. I have to believe it's the red cap, even though it's certainly powerful. 1-drop, we immediately draw into Fervent Champion, which is probably one of the better draws we could get. Hopefully we don't run into too many more discard effects. Could see something like a Burglar Rat. Yep. Okay. Part of me feels like I should lose a land here, but not hitting History of Benalia on curve is also pretty difficult. It's probably incorrect to lose Embercleave, but I think that might have to be the right play. See if our opponent opts to trade in. He does not. We'll go with the Vanguard here. I'm not sure that losing Embercleave there was the correct play, but not playing History of Benalia on turn 3 also seemed pretty bad. Sure. Opponent deciding if he wants to attack. Really don't want to see another Vicious Rumors. Opponent opts not to attack. I don't really want to lose the Fervent Champion, so we're just going to swing in with the Adanta Vanguard here. Looks like opponent may have something like a Disfigure here. Opts not to use it. We'll go ahead and drop down the History of Benalia here. This is a matchup where being on the draw versus being on the play is just absolutely massive. Okay, so we see a Rankle here. Opponent has definitely had a very powerful curve out here, making us pitch some of the most powerful spells in our deck while also getting bodies on the board. Especially being that we're an aggressive deck that doesn't have a whole lot of card advantage elements to it. Certainly a good showing here from the mono black discard deck. Opponent deciding whether or not they want to get in here with the Rankle. Don't have a lot of ways to deal with flyers, unfortunately. In this case, I think it's the champion. Reason for that being, we get to swing in with our Vigilant Knight. Had we sacrificed the Knight, I guess we could have still swung in for damage, but see if the opponent opts to trade in the Fenlurker. I would probably suggest he kept it back and try and save some life on the next swing. But I think he might trade it for 4 life here on my end with the Fenlurker. Decides not to. And we're going to go ahead and play the land, given that this is a discard deck, so having anything sitting in our hand probably won't stay there for long. Opponent gets in for 3. Let's see if they decide to have us draw a card. I could see them having us draw a card, losing a life, and then just having us pitch the card. Decides to sack a creature here, so we will sack the knight, get a counter on another knight. We'll see if he's got removal for this one. If he has something like Disfigure, he'd want to use it now. See what his follow-up play is here. If he's got something like Murderous Rider, you may want to just use it on our turn. So almost certainly one of these knights is going to die here to a Murderous Rider. Yep. Sure. Opponent does go down to 2 here. But the Murderous Rider actually does a really nice job of playing defense for him as well. Yep. So best case scenario here, we draw Embercleave. But don't think the opponent can afford to swing in with Rankle. He decides to scoop it up. Don't know that the game was over there, but we'll take it. Alright, so against the discard deck, we don't really have too much, I don't think. We didn't see any sweepers. Fire the Carnarium will definitely hit us pretty hard. I don't know that we really want Conclave Tribunal. They're running a lot of creatures that basically they're willing to expend with Rankle anyways. Rankle itself might be worth killing, but I suppose maybe we could cut the red caps for some lava coils, just have a little bit more interaction. I'm not sure if Lava Coil is better or Conclave Tribunal in this case. If they are playing something like Rotting Register, that could be pretty difficult to deal with. We haven't seen any sweepers or anything like that, but it's possible they'd be bringing them in from the board. Basically, I'm deciding if I want to run Unbreakable Formation or another Gideon. That being said, 3-mana spells might also be pretty difficult to get on the board to begin with, so we'll run it like this. I'm not sure that it's right to bring out creatures in this matchup anyways, but we are going to be on the draw, so it might be a little bit difficult to get under the opponent. The last game was very close. Certainly a frustrating deck to play against too, because having to discard out of your hand, not knowing what the top card of your library is, can be very difficult. That last game we had to pitch one of probably the strongest card in our deck in Embercleave, just for curve reasons. We needed to play a spell every turn. Luckily it worked out for us there, but certainly some pretty difficult decisions to make when the opponent is forcing you to pitch most of your hand away. So going into game 2 here, we really want to see if the opponent's running sweepers. Unfortunately, mono black sweepers normally involve Cry of the Carnarium. Both Ritual of Soot and Cry of the Carnarium are difficult for us to deal with, but Cry is especially difficult because Unbreakable Formation really puts a hurt. Or I'm sorry, Cry of the Carnarium really puts a hurt on Adonta Vanguard, and Unbreakable Formation doesn't actually get us out of that. We'll definitely keep this hand. It's got strong curve. We'll see how many of these cards we actually get to keep, but if we have to pitch here, I think we probably pitch the Lava Coil. If we can manage to get some value out of this Worthy Knight, we'll be in really good position here. I imagine the opponent also brought in significantly more removal. Something like Disfigure, just blow Adonta Vanguard right out of the water. Immediately snaps the Lava Coil, decides not to take the History of Benalia. That's interesting. So I'm wondering if that means Rankle, Burglar, sure. This probably just has to be the formation. That is certainly a good draw. Play a Vanguard here. And I don't think that we want to trade. Alright. Definitely a strong card in this matchup. I think we're going to be willing to trade 4 life for the Vanguard here. If the opponent opts to make this trade, he doesn't get to sacrifice the Burglar Right for a card. We'll go ahead and play the history here. Having the Gideon in our hand really helps for lifelink purposes. Ayara is definitely a difficult creature to get through, though. Having the 3 toughness here is huge. Sure. think Gideon is just a strong pickup here. It'll represent the same amount of damage as playing the Worthy Knight this next turn. And I think we will give the Vanguard lifelink.
Your light will cleave the darkness.
So we'll get punished here if opponent drops something like Rankle this next turn, but even then, we might be willing to just trade off. See if opponent opts to trade. I could see them blocking and then sacking with Ayara if need be after I pay the 4 life for Indestructible, but so there might not have been a correct attack. Alright, and there's also the possibility that we draw a 1-drop here for the Worthy Knight, getting a little bit of extra value as well. It's definitely unfortunate, but makes sense. The interesting thing is I actually cut to, I think it's Apostle of Purifying Light, the pro-black creature that white gets that allows you to exile cards from graveyards. I cut that for some graveyard hate. Basically, it was just a decision against a general metagame, but would have been really strong here. Opponent opts not to attack, which is probably the correct thing. And we are certainly going to be getting busy here. Opponent is forced to block in some shape or form. Fortunately, we are flooding out a little bit, but so hopefully we'll start drawing some knights, and we can start getting some value here. I still think probably our best draw is something like Embercleave. It's interesting. Aspiring Veteran was probably one of the better draws we could have had. That's pretty unfortunate. It's kind of a tilt, but not much we can do about it. Yeah, Inspiring Veteran actually would have been one of the strongest draws we'd have, because it would allow all of our knights to attack into this Murderous Rider. What a vicious rumors too. Basically uses it only to mill us for one and gain a life. I mean, maybe gaining a life here matters, but that was quite a hit. Okay. That will also do it. I'm choosing not to give the Vanguard a counter because I want to get in with it this turn. If the opponent wants to trade off the Murder Strider, is more than welcome to. This might be a good situation for him to block and then sack in response to damage here. You should almost certainly sacrifice this to draw a card here. Yeah. Sure. Don't think the game was over necessarily, but definitely a good game. Mono black discard. Definitely a difficult deck to play against in some cases. Ayara got to do some pretty neat things. So we are on the draw, unfortunately, and I think we're definitely going to have to mulligan that hand. This is much stronger. We'll keep this and pitch the formation. So unfortunately we did not draw another white source for history. This opponent is on Abzan. Okay, we haven't played very many of the Explore decks yet. Opponent hits a land with their Branch Walker. So there's our second white source, which is really great. I guess I probably misplayed a little bit not being able to double spell this turn. But we'll just get in with the 1/1 here. We're not interested in trading for the Branch Walker. Certainly was a misplay not playing the Mountain first, double spelling this last turn. So I don't think we can attack this turn. I think basically we're looking to pile on as much as we can into the board here, and then just getting in a really strong attack with History of Benalia. Militia Bugler is definitely cool though. I like this Abzan mid-range deck that he's got. Hooks up another Militia Bugler. Not sure if I'm saying that right. Alrighty. Alright, so we are setting up for a pretty strong attack this next turn. We'll see what our opponent decides to do. There's another Bugler. It's definitely pretty unfortunate. Opponent is getting just more value out of his cards than we are. But that is kind of what you what you get with a deck like this, that is certainly a strong card to see here. And I think we'll go in with everything but the 1/1. And we will go in ahead and put this on the Worthy Knight, just to ensure that we get past a double Militia Bueller block on it. So opponent is taking 9 here. Okay, so he decides to basically trade his entire board. Don't think it's worth it to use our mana to pump the red cap here. Opponent draws a billion cards, but he is losing a fair amount of life here. So he basically needs to have the sweeper here. Shocks in. Chupacabra. Sure. Charming Prince. That's pretty strong. That's actually really neat. It's a really unfortunate draw. But I think we have to just swing out. So I guess the turn that, yeah, that's pretty unfortunate. The turn that the, okay, so we do see Fauna Shaman. That the History of Benalia procced off, we just needed to swing with one of the 1/1s. So it might have been correct to just swing with everything there. But this game is most certainly over. A little bit unfortunate, probably a misplay not to swing in with everything and just maximize damage. But now we know. So I definitely like Unbreakable Formation here. I like Gideon a little bit less than normal. We are on the play this turn as well. We want Lava Coil. We kind of need to be able to get rid of Wild Growth Walker as soon as possible. It also just absolutely brick walls Adanta Vanguard if it has even a single counter on it. So it's possible we cut something like 1 red cap for a Tribunal. Doesn't seem like much, but it might come in handy. I like the formation. It'll help us break through what is definitely going to be a stalled board state. We'll see if the opponent is running things like Cry of the Carnarium, which is a strong sweeper in their deck specifically because of Bugler and Wild Growth Walker being able to survive it. Not the strongest hand, but certainly something we want to keep. Well, it definitely got a little bit better there. Shots in for Jade Light, sure. So the Wild Growth Walker is just going to be absolutely massive. This might not have been the correct play, but okay, we don't mind that actually. Chupacabra is pretty good. Opponent scoops it up. Alright. I guess they were dead anyways, but... So that was strong. Unfortunately, I also know that we have Embercleave now. I think we have to take out a red cap and bring in another Tribunal. The Wild Growth Walkers are just going to absolutely brick wall us if we don't find a way to get rid of them. It's definitely a fun game to have Embercleave. That was really, really enjoyable. This is a really strong hand if we draw a land, but given that the opponent took a mulligan, wow, that is unfortunate. We're just going to keep it going. As long as they are, we will as well. Here, I think we probably... This is actually pretty difficult. It's probably a Worthy Knight. Embercleave is just so strong. It's hard to see us not wanting that card, but that feels really wrong. That being said, though, I don't know necessarily how we're going to get through a Wild Growth Walker if we keep these three. If we keep Worthy Knight, Fervent Champion, and Dauntless Bodyguard. Maybe it's actually Champion Worthy Knight. That might just be an incorrect call, but I guess I'm hedging against a Wild Growth Walker, but even with this hand, I don't know that we'll necessarily have what we need to get rid of it. It was probably better to just get rid of the Embercleave, but fortunate. So the nice thing is we can play Embercleave. Wow, that is unfortunate. I can't even be mad about that. I mean, that's just great. I will say Plague Mare was not on my list of considerations here for a sweeper, but it's really, really strong against what our deck is doing. I think I'll give it one more turn here. That's just good magic right there, folks. Haven't seen Plague Mare in a long time. That's fun. Can't block it. Probably would have played that pre-combat if I was him, but don't think it really matters here. Yep, I think we're going to call it. Good game. We were both on a mulligan to 5 there as well, so I can't complain too much. Plague Mare there was just so much fun. Alright, well I think that's going to be it for the Boros Knights deck. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a comment, like, and subscribe for a new content creator. Still getting into the swing of things here, but I appreciate all the support for anybody watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks.